Welcome to Life Skills TTP. Today we're going to talk about black fatigue and coffee. And I have to be honest with you, man. I didn't even know really what black fatigue was. I kept hearing it on the internet and online, especially on YouTube, but I've never heard it in real life. So I looked it up. And the definition is black fatigue: the mental and physical exhaustion that comes from repeated acts of discrimination over time, coined by Mary Frances Winters. Mary Frances Winters also wrote a book on black fatigue, I think in 2020. She is the person to talk about this. But what's interesting about this is what they're saying on the internet and what black fatigue is two different things. They don't say nothing about mental health, which this obviously is. And the core thesis of this is, let me stay on camera, living in continuously racist system that is not, okay, let's start over. Let's start over, man. Look. We transparent over here. Look, the core thesis: living in a continuous racist system is not merely an emotional burden. It is a measurable psychological pre-existing condition that alters cellular health. So definition 2 is the clinical, the racial battle fatigue, the RBF, the cumulative psychological, the psychological, physiological, and emotional impacts of tactical micro and microaggressions, completely depleting a racially marginalized individual's energy. Now we're going to pause right there, because all the videos that you guys show me have nothing to do with continuous racist systems that merely bear an emotional burden. Which means if you're out in the street, what you call a takeover, well, that's not black fatigue, because that has something to do with continuous racist system. You are acting and doing this stuff on your own. So when people use, I know it gets popular to say nobody looks this stuff up. They don't know who said it, and they just keep repeating it, putting videos, putting pictures to it, and it doesn't have anything to do with that. The definition 2, the clinical, the racial battle of fatigue, the RBF. Moving on. So the unrelenting cycle. And this is how she's seen it. This was how she got her information. And then this comes from her perspective. Is it everybody's perspective? Is it my perspective? It is a perspective, and it's important information. The unrelenting cycle. Generations of oppressively inequitable outcomes, the societal manifestation. Right? The inherent racist disparities in health, the biological consequence. And the unmitigated systemic racism, the environmental catalyst. And the intergenerational stress and trauma, the psychological inheritance, and all of this stuff she did, this stuff that you're saying comes from psychological studies and certain things that were obtained to get this information. Now, navigating centuries of old racist systems lead to intergenerational stress, increasing inherent health, disparities that make manifest in generational inequitable life experiences. And this comes from a certain demographic, a certain group of people. What happens is everybody applies everything to the culture. This stuff was done because there were studies and they were able to come up with some realistic stuff that would explain some of the behavior in different environments and people that have less resources than somebody else. The Toll of Living While Black, a Lifetime Timeline. Now, this is from her. And so, what I always do with stuff like this is because people don't have, well, they don't have it, they don't want to. They remain biased and they think that somebody's implying something when the information is the information. The facts is the facts. It's up for you to determine whether or not what I present to you and this stuff that I presented to you holds any truth. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is you have to do your own research. You have to see if this applies to you, or is this something that you ever experienced? Because to put yourself in a category of something you never experienced, then you become a person who totes the bag. And so at age 5, the realization being called the N-word, predominantly white kindergarten transition from carefree child to permanently on guard individual. And what I will say about this, because they're already uncovering all of this, is that that stuff is intentional. And so there were systems and things created to certain individuals that experienced this, and you can't tell them that, oh, no, this is not true, because they experienced that. That was their reality. Now, is it a total truth as far as, is this something that every black individual experienced? No. But most individuals that don't have an identity, myself included, that got into music and certain things, that decided that, hey, no, this culture is my culture. This culture is for me. I'm gonna rock with this. See, that's me. I'm gonna tell you off top. That's me. I did that, and I'm one of them loyal people. So they made a lot of money off of me. Until I looked up and I realized that, damn, I don't have nothing. And so my behavior, attaching myself to some things that I didn't even go through, she went through that. And they went through some things in their reality, and they're sharing them with you. Now, unless this happens to you, then, and don't get me wrong, don't see people always, I can feel the energy. You don't know about, I just, look on my channel, and I did the thing about me coming here and having the redneck heaven sign on the door. Now, that doesn't mean that now I'm going to go pro-black and everybody is racist and these people are racist and everybody I talk to is whatever. No, I'm diverse. I don't get into that, but that's what was done to me when I got here. And that's facts. And I made the video and I have the sign and all of that stuff, because I think it's important when you're talking and people think you're making up stuff, clicks and views, oh, I think this might be a great topic or whatever like that. I'm not doing any of that. I'm sticking to the facts. I'm staying in real time, and I'm giving you information. What I've really tried to do is not be like everybody else, which means I'm not spinning the same story, the same narrative. I'm going to dig a little deeper. I'm going to find out, and it's boring. I know you probably get to this part, you're probably like, man, what is he talking about anyway? But if you slow yourself down and understand, a lot of this stuff that was going on were organizations ran and they were funded. And so you got to know if this stuff applies to you. That's why I said, you're trying to say that no, she experienced that. She went through that. That's her story, right? Hey, that's what's in her chip. You can't tell her none of that. So the young adulthood, the justification, participating in university takeovers, and demand equity, and having constantly justify her existence in academic presence. Well, that's the number one we run to. All the trouble I got into, I was thinking, I didn't finish school, the whole importance of that. I'm thinking to myself, oh, I got to get an education. I got to get my degrees. I ran and did all of that stuff. And I've gotten not one job from that stuff. Facts. So, did I need to do that? Right? Well, yeah, because it enhanced my perspective, it enhanced my knowledge, it connected some stuff together. It helped me in my life push myself forward and actually get to a place where I could be coherent enough to talk to you. I was an angry person. So, no telling what I might say. A little different now. I still speak my mind, and I address stuff if it's needed, based on what it is. It has nothing to do with people's skin color, who they are, where they're from. None of that. It has to do with behavior. It has to do with basically just how you behave. Now, why do I got to attach black or this or certain things to it? It's not any of the fatigue. What it is your behavior. Period. And if you change that, you would be out there doing that. I'm going to get to that in the next slide. I'm going to finish this. So at age 47, she said the ultimate cost, the death of her husband, Joe, from a massive heart attack, potential casualty and psychological wear and tear on navigating corporate spaces. I'm going to get to that black fatigue. So the autonomy of the exhaustion. But before I get to this, because this is deep, before I get to this, I'm just going to tell you why there's teen takeovers and all of that fatigue and what you're talking about and that. When I grew up, we had a lot of stuff to go to. School is getting out. It's out. Summer comes. We had after school sporting events, the flag football. We had softball, baseball in the summertime. And then at the park, they had all kind of events in the summertime, not to mention the movies, but they also had a lot of concerts, cheap concerts. These keep the pop, I call them the pop culture, these keep these young cats off the street. They don't have anything to do. They've been in the house since 2019. Now all of a sudden they can go out. They fantasize about all the stuff that they could do while they was in the house, and best believe they're going to execute it. Now that they out here and they got all this freedom and this thing's going like that, there's nothing to do. They don't have any programs. The thing that makes me mad is you collect a lot of money for all of this stuff that's supposed to go to this, get allocated to this, do this, have these programs, so these kids won't be running out taking over streets. But instead, y'all into all kind of fraud, stuff in your pockets and doing all of that. And the results of that, and this is why people don't put the two together, the results of that is what you're seeing now on television. They don't have anything to do. That's not an excuse, but that younger generation pop culture, they have to have activity. They actually have to be told where to go, what to do, what's happening, what's going on, and all of that. So they don't have all of that mystical thinking, that all of that inside the house since 2019. And I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna run out. Yeah, we're gonna run over that, and all you keep seeing is handcuffs and a lot of casualties and some weird stuff. So black fatigue, and there could be more than one definition of black fatigue. I'm not saying, I'm telling you what she says. It has to do with systemic racism and environments that's a continuous racism. I don't see any of that. I just see bad behavior and just doing some stuff. I'm not going to keep on to that. I'm going to get into the anatomy of exhaustion. The anatomy of exhaustion. So the spirit, the emotional impact. So the emotional numbness, suppression, deep empathy, helplessness, hopelessness, and the pervasive sadness. And then you got the mind, the cognitive impact, the hypervigilance, the hypersensitivity, the detachment, the internalization of racist attributions, defensiveness, and escapism. And you would think, okay, black fatigue, oh, you think it's going to have some ebonics? No, this stuff is psychological. It's psychology. And you throw it around, and it's really mental health. It's all of these different things, but we got to make it cool and hip and acceptable and say that just like everything else, and then there's not going to be any progress. No, we got to tell it like it is. It's a mental health condition due to not having human touch, social interaction, being able to do that constantly, not online, not get gassed up by the likes and the views and all of these people saying things, people saying bad things, people saying good things, all of this stuff that kind of molds and shapes you the way you are. Then you take off out of the house and Your parents taught you how to behave, but then now you don't know how to behave. And then as soon as you get caught up, you're crying. I wasn't really doing that. This freedom of speech. Everybody hollering freedom of speech, freedom of that. They know none of the constitutions. Guess what? I have the constitutions on this channel. On my channel. Because when they talk like that and you don't understand the John Hancock, then I got to say it to you. So the threat response, the flight, freeze, and chronically activated attacking individual across all three sectors of human experience simultaneously. So that is the autonomy of exhaustion. And what does that mean? Okay, so I'm going to say for myself when I get up, boom, I might click on some stuff, check some stuff, see if I got some messages. I immediately go, because the dogs sleep in, I immediately go and see if they're cool. If she let them out, I'll let them out. Let them out. The coffee's on. Coffee's normally on. I get me some coffee. I do whatever, but I got my day planned out. I got to go. I got some stuff I got to do with yard. I got to do some stuff in the business. I might have to get some gas, pick up some toilet paper. Whatever the situation is, I have my day planned out. I don't have time to go to a takeover. And I really think that we got to bring some of these programs. We've got to start bringing some of these stuff back for something to do. Even if it's the YMCA, open to them. So at least you know they're inside, they're indoors. You can see them. They're not doing anything outrageous. And then you got many of different stuff in there. You got paintball, you got basketball. You can lift weights. Some of the places have a room in there with a table and stuff where you could write, you could draw, you could do different things. I think we have to bring. We have to bring this stuff back. Excuse me. We have to bring this stuff back, or they're going to continue to do that. They have nothing to do. Is there any malls? Well, if there are malls, they don't have any money, and then they're not going to be able to be accepted in the mall. They're not going to buy nothing. It's not like when we went to school and like when I went. Like, that was our thing. We go to Eastridge Mall. We'd hang out. I would get I'll tell you straight up. I used to get a Mrs. Field cookie, milk chocolate and walnuts. They never had too many. They always say, "Do you want a semi-sweet?" I said, "No." "You want to wait?" I said, "Yeah, I'll wait." That was my thing every time. In my mind, I thought they were forcing me to take this semi-sweet chocolate. I'm going to wait. One day, because they was like, "Man, don't be doing..." My partner was just like, "Man, come on, man." So I took the cookie. Mrs. Fields. Sweet. And you got to remember, that's how long Mrs. Fields been around. 80s. I take and get that cookie. I said, "Oh, this is not bad." But for the longest time, I thought they were trying to feed me something I didn't want. And I was like, "Oh, it don't matter. Semi-sweet, chocolate, whatever." But that's what we did in the mall. We'd go check out the shoes and Foot Locker. We would go to the Gap. That was our thing back then. We didn't have all those other stores. And then they had like stores that had like Dickies and denim and those type of things. Boots, work stuff, belts, all. I mean, we had something to do. No, nobody followed us. We weren't getting the police call, and none of that. No fights inside the mall. None of that stuff when we were growing up. Now all the malls are closed. Everybody's about money. So now they're just like, they can't afford to lose no merchandise. They don't want you in there if you're not shopping. So they're not even treating you like a customer. Like, you might come back and spend a couple $1,000s. You might just need to look and see what you're doing. But these people have determined, because you're not spending any money right now, that you got to go. When you think about that. And then how does that make you feel as a younger individual, as an adolescent, that they're treating you like this? All you want to do is hang out, because it's not everybody. See, the whole thing about that, what happens is they do it to the innocent people. They join the people that's wrong. So now you have a whole mass of people. One's disgruntled because he said, "Yeah, that fool, he followed me around and doing all this stuff." I'll tell you, they still do that to me. I remember we took the dog up to Walnut Creek. The dog was getting clipped and all of that stuff. So we took him up there and we went into like a Marshall's. We went up there, went into like a Marshall's, and because we like going there, shop around. They got some stuff in there sometimes. So we were going in there, I'm picking out all kinds of stuff, and I noticed that I was being followed. And so after I noticed that they were doing that, I started messing with them. After that, she was like, so I put stuff back, grab stuff, put stuff back. And when we got to the counter to pay for this stuff, they were like 5 feet behind me. I turned around, looked at him. I said, dude, I said, you are absolutely bonkers. And he tried to turn away. I said, man, ain't nobody. I said, as a matter of fact, I should file a complaint on you for that. She was looking at me. So I pulled out the cash and paid the girl. It's like a 103, something like that. I paid her. She said, oh, thank you. Have a nice day. I said, thank you. Have a nice day. But they do this intentionally. They profile you. I don't want to get into that, but it's very true. And it's really not about if you're going to steal something. It's all about making you feel a certain way while you're there. So from now on, when you're here and you're around, milling around, you know somebody is watching. That's what that's all about. And so I tell you, that's how it was back there for me, even though, and that was recently. That was only 5 years ago, so 4.5 years ago. So the anatomy of exhaustion is real. And so we got the biology of injustice, the allostatic load. And so what is the definition? It's a cumulative biological wear and tear on the body caused by chronic social stress, social elevated threats, caused by chronic social stress. So the biomarker matrix is very interesting. And so you got the neural doctrine, the inflammatory, the cardiovascular, and the metabolic. And the conclusion is the body's primary stress response systems lost its plasticity. Racism literally makes you sick. I got something over there on the other screen, but I don't want to get up and move it. So it is what it is. And so the intersectional burdens of psychological androgyny, racial oppression, the indivisible labor, and gender oppression. All of these have serious emotional impact. And I think it's too much to actually put on or introduce to younger people and even younger adolescents. I think that they should. I think growing up, I did not have that opportunity. It was spoon fed to me. So, but I think that you should be old enough and mature enough to be able to not only understand it, but actually make a sound decision for yourself based on your own personal experience. That's what I believe. And so the concept of gender racism, a black woman sit at the district intersection of two axes of oppression. The synthesis of these oppressions create a completely unique set of conditions and societal expectations. And so simply just being a woman. Now this, you have to realize this case study comes from her. She wrote the book on black fatigue, and this is her perspective. So when I'm reading it, I want you to understand that this is not my perspective, this is her perspective. And as I was studying this and reading this, I thought it was very interesting. It's almost remarkable that she came up with this stuff based upon her own personal experience. So the psychological androgyny, to survive, a black woman are historically socialized, embody traditionally masculine traits, self-reliance, abstaining strength, fearlessness, while simultaneously fulfilling traditional feminine roles, nurturing caregiver, other mother to the community. Well, the results of that was habits of surviving, the development of unbreakable psychological armor to maintain resilience in a socially threatening situation. Be strong, right? That's what they always say. You got to be strong. And who does that apply to? Does it apply to you? I told you how I grew up. I grew up in the suburbs. And I grew up very diverse, very, a lot of different nationalities, and I mean a lot. Color of the rainbow. And I made a personal choice to start alienating certain things, certain individuals, based on the fact that I got in trouble, and now I've been talked into like I'm being viewed in certain things because of my skin color, which wasn't even true. If I didn't do any of that stuff, I wouldn't experience it. I told you before, I'm not going to tell the story again, but if I didn't do that stuff, I wouldn't experience it, because unless it is you're in an environment or it's part of a structure, you're never going to even run into it. And I know people say whatever. No, you don't. That's why people are so taken aback sometimes when they hear certain things and people talking to each other, because from where they come from, that is a no-no. And on top of that, they don't even get down or behave like that. Black fatigue. And this is her thing, the Superwoman schema. This is her SWS. Remember SWVs? SWS. The evolution. Formalizing during the 1960s and 70s, the black feminist movement, and the schema became an ambiguous feature of African American womanhood. Now, this is her perspective. The historical anchor rooted in the 19th century reality of figures like Soldier Truth Ain't a Woman, where they were denied conveniences and the womanhood and expected to bear the physical labor of men while maintaining caregiving duties. And she's speaking about coming from a time back then where they got down like that. She's absolutely telling the truth. And brave enough to actually speak it and then articulate it in a way that I feel, since I've been going through this, that is not offensive, or taking up a certain stance about certain things politically. This is just about her experience and how she was able to extract something positive from it and actually tell you in this certain systems, because these are all systems, and this certain system, this is what was going on. And so the core definition of the multidimensional coping framework, where black women adopted an image of absolute strength and withstand the race and gender conscious societies as an asset, allows black women to manage their lives, but an overused asset that runs the risk of becoming a fatal liability. That's deep. And so this is just a breakdown of the SWS diagnostic matrix. And so you have strength, you got emotional suppression, you got vulnerability and resistance, motivation to succeed, and obligation to help. Now, what is the strength? The obligation to present an image of strength even when crumbling. So all the stuff we're going through now, things that happen, and you smiling and you say, you know what, we'll get through this, we'll get through this. That's what they're talking about. No protective buffers, harmful effects of discrimination. So the biological impact, right? This is the biological impact. So the emotional suppression, my tears are a sign of weakness, hiding distress, vulnerability resistance, refusing to ask for help or show dependence. Number 4, motivation to succeed, working twice as hard to overcome stereotypes. And number 5, obligation to help, putting everyone else's needs before your own. And that's an easy one, because if you're around people that depend on you, not only financially but emotionally, then you're going to run into a lot of that. And so the protective versus the toxic paradox. And so the shield, while emotion suppression works short term, the hazard, while intense motivation stifles long term. So the high emotional suppression and low emotional suppression is racial discrimination. Racial discrimination, you got low motivation to succeed, high motivation to succeed. Now, anger is the primary emotional response to racial discrimination because chronic expressions of anger and heavy damaging to the cardiovascular system. Suppressing it serves an automatic learned regulatory strategy to minimize psychological distress in uncomfortable situations. So in other words, they weaponize a certain word. They weaponize a certain word with emotional, not only contact to be in the system, but they can unleash it. And it'll do something to you in your body. Do something to you in your chest. That's what they say. So is it scientific or is it repetitious? And so the pressure to work twice as hard to overcome stereotype threats require sustainability effort coping. John Henryism, oh, that's me, chronologically deploy active coping strategies against unchangeable systemic stressors, utterly deploy psychological reserves. No, I don't say that as if I have some racist stuff going on with me. No, John Henry worked twice as hard, which means my will to get it done. That's what they say. Oh, John Henry. Yeah, whatever. And it ain't got nothing to do with that. But it is one of the things, pressure to work twice as hard. Now, was this told to me? Yes, it was told to me. And don't worry about that, man. You got to work hard. You got to get it. So if I don't do that, and I don't subscribe to this stuff, what's going to happen? Well, I can tell you what's going to happen. Not only will they make it twice as hard, but they will try to justify their own idiotic behavior. So the societal discourse of the false binary. The false binary. So the tension. The tension is a growing critique that exists that evoking systemic racism deflects personal and community accountability, citing absentees fathers or culture disrespect. So the growing critique exists invoking systemic racism deflects the personal and community accountability, citing absentees fathers or a culture of disrespect. I'm gonna put on my glass, but I can't see. It's only a certain distance. And I every time I do a video, this happens, but hey, at least you know it's not AI. So the data defying the tropes. Systemic reality, Brookings 2020, Black Americans facing overwhelming structural disadvantages, underfunded schools, discriminatory policies, housing. So the community reality is of 2013, the Black fathers are statistically more involved with their children in daily caregiving than the fathers of other races. So that's why I tell you, if you're doing it and you subscribe to this under this stuff, why are you doing that? You're handling your business. You're a human being. You don't even have to even get into none of that. These are systems. So, because when they start throwing around these words, black fatigue, they start throwing around this stuff a lot and using it out of context, misusing it and saying certain things. Nobody says who it comes from. Nobody quotes what it is. What was it actually made for? Same thing as Black Lives Matter. What it is? What was its real intention? You just took it and made it some kind of popular slang. So the weaponization of the narrative, that is in a culture, it's what actually drives most engines. It is the ability to take this and drop it in a little pool of water and watch it spread. And before the night is over, there will be 100,000 people, it'll gone viral, and they will be talking about said individual and all of the stuff that's happening or may not, or what it's going to do. And nobody checked, referenced it, or nothing. It's one of the reasons why I stay silent, because I can't believe that the majority of the people don't look this stuff up. It is absolutely astounding. And so when I do these case studies and I do this in this way, I do them because I want to be different. I want to have my own lane. I want to do my own thing. And I do use some stuff from people that I follow. They're great. Anybody that shows up every day with that kind of work ethics and that kind of thing is going to be successful off the top. What would I have to say? But the weaponization of the narrative for me is huge, because the origin is systemic exhaustion, and the black fatigue as a literal mental, physical, and cellular erosion caused by white supremacy and systemic equity. Mary Frances Winters. Now this is her. This is her story through her lens. Her personal story and information that she's collected about this at this time. And the reason a lot of this stuff is coming up is because what actually happened to the culture after it got hijacked. And we're talking academically from the SBCUs. We're talking about entertainment. We're talking about music. We're talking about sports. We're talking about on every level. And this stuff that they went through and they were able to do something about it made it incredibly better for everybody else. And that is the thing. And I can't say, oh, nobody's going to experience. There is knucklehead people that subscribe to systems to keep this stuff going. I know, because when I landed here, they were going to try to use me for that. And I thought that was absolutely bizarre, because there's nothing in my DNA that says that I am going to do that. And so the weaponization of the narrative, I will keep saying, for me, is huge. And so the critique, community accountability, the frustration from within and the outside community, arguing for moral uplift, education, and individual effort of victimhood narratives. I just told you that. Oh yeah, the reason it's hard for me, I don't have any education. Well, I got a trade. My father taught me 4 or 5 trades. I always have work. He taught me 4 or 5 trades. So why was my mind so, no, I gotta be smart. Because it was fed. I was already tight. I was already ahead. Right? I didn't need no piece of paper to tell me that. I didn't need no documentation to tell me that. All them certificates, all the things to tell me that. No, I got that stuff. I brought that to the people that said I needed it, and they told me no. The weaponization of the narrative. So I know all about this. So you got to be accountable for what you do. And another thing, when you get education, okay, you got the degree, but now you have to really learn it. Now you have to make yourself an asset in this particular field, which means you have to know more than your predecessors. You have to know more than other people. It's just how it goes. No, it doesn't have to be because your skin color. You got to do more, know more, twice as more, 5, 6 times more. Because if you don't know 5 or 6 times more, they're not going to take you serious or none of that. No, it's the path you laid. It's the foundation that you created, and so you're going to have that. And so the co-opting of the right mockery is the insolence online trend. I just said that the insolence online trend, where conservative groups hijack the term to mean white people's fatigue for seeing black culture and black people. That is absolutely bonkers. No, they're saying black fatigue is nice. They could say looters. They could say all kind of stuff about what's going on. They're just saying that black fatigue's attached to mental health. Instead of them using that because they can't, they have to use different stuff allegedly and stuff like they can't be attaching terms like that mental health, but it's a mental health term. And so the goal is to set the nervous system on this channel. I have an episode. It's 20 something. My nervous system. And I keep going all over all of this stuff because as you can see, it's all connected and it keeps popping up. Nervous system. Tactical disengagement regulating the body. So you got the brain, you got the vagus nerve, and then you got the lungs, the respiratory engine. So now the things you see, the things you feel, sounds you hear, things you smell, things you taste. That's the grounding method. Right? The psychological effect, the shortcuts trauma triggers the hypervigilance by forcing cognitive anchor into the present physical environment. Now, why would make you think they break all this stuff down about black fatigue? Because they know people, they can say stuff, do stuff, and they will go and just run with it and never check it out. Never check it out. I kept hearing it so much, so I had to check it out. Psychological effects forces the heart rate to slow and engages the body's natural calming response, shifting to the body and nervous system. The breathing mechanism, 4, 7, and 8. So reclaiming identity and community. So I'm going to get serious. What does that mean? That means you can't lump everybody into the same pot. And then the people that actually get it and understood it, and they're on the outside looking in at these people self-destruct, you don't have to pile it on. I mean, that specific culture has been used and abused for a variety of many things, and it's still going on consistently. I like to bring some balance to this because I know it's a mental health condition. I know we had too much pride. I know that you're not going to, I ain't got to do that. All they're going to be doing is talking about whatever. I told you I have the links on the channel on this particular platform. This stuff's not encouraged. You have to come seek it out, which means you're going to have to come click on my channel. It's always been like that. I've been on here for 3 years. You have to do that. I have some resources and a lot of things in Linktree. You can also email me at lifeskillsttp@gmail.com. And you can send me any message, ask any question. You want to know some information, I will look it up instantly. We are in the age of information. I will get it instantly. And I tell you that to my subscribers in my community, because this platform, everybody thinks that you have to take sides, take a certain stance. They're like, who is he with? What is this? And at the end of the day, it's none of that for me. It's all about staying in the truth, wanting things to get better, not getting knocked over the head when I go to my car, when I buy something. Actually get the resources and the things I need, and I couldn't get it because of fraud. All kinds of stuff that I could tell you that is way more important than these systems that keep this racial stuff going. And so you got community, mind, self. So establish digital boundaries. So take intentional, unapologetic pauses from 24 hours of news cycle and social media trauma loops. Give yourself permission to disengage. Like, if you're running to negative stuff all the time, I am balanced. I listen to everything. I go in cycles. Like now I'm all on ID. I'm trying to look and see the new crime stuff, these individuals, the pattern of behavior, what's the results of it, is it connected to the shot, what is the certain thing. So I go back and I look, and I'm telling you, every major case, everything that's ever done, I know it. I even caught one on YouTube, somebody making something up. Man, this is not even a case. it's not even the case. So I tell you that to be careful with AI and all of that stuff. With a lot of this crime stuff, they be making a lot of that stuff up. I pretty much know every single major case and in between that is maybe politically motivated or even racially motivated or whatever it is. And so you have to be careful with ingesting that stuff. I say this on here, that's why I have the dance music. I do so many different things. You know what's interesting? When I do something somebody doesn't like, they bounce. And you don't understand that you are at a world global channel that has variety on so many different levels. We just getting started. I need help. That's why. And so as I get the help and things start to change and then we have discussions and have lives and things like that, I'm going to try to keep you as entertained as I can, with this. But I also want you to actually obtain something, know something. So when somebody brings this stuff to you about black fatigue, you'll know exactly what it is. You'll know who it came from. They're like, I came from there. That came from there. They'll argue with you about it, but the reality of it is they'll never look it up. And so the regime of the cultural pride is actively consume media, literature and art, celebrate positive attributes, historical resilience, counteract the internalized devaluation imposed by systemic structures. And so it's like a loop that they go in constantly where they keep keeping you right when you think, oh, this stuff's not happening. Here comes George Floyd. Oh, and then everybody's back. See, I told you. They let you watch. Why would they let you watch that on anyway? And this is not, hey, don't be sensitive. Enhance social support. Reject the isolation of the superwoman schema. Leaned on trusted others for validation, allyship, and encouragement. Remember, you don't have to fight every battle alone. This is her perspective. This is her thing. So you have structural interventions and the moving burden. And so you got the crux, systemic accountability, and required policy forms. I'm going to start with 2. And the systemic accountability, the burden of structural change belongs to the architects of beneficiaries of those structures. Ignorance is no longer an excuse. So if you're just making us, man, they just say they don't want me doing that, you're not supposed to be there. What is the rules? What is the stuff? What is the policy? You know this president has changed a lot of stuff. You need to find out what that is. What's curfew? What's this? What's that? Can I be here? How long can I loiter? Can I be in this place without buying nothing or not buying nothing? They're not going to tell you that. Know what they're going to tell you? When you show up cutting up and behaving badly, they're going to show up and tell you. They're going to know the policies and rules and everything. You're going to argue and say that they're picking on you because you're black. You're going to go through all of this stuff, enrage some other people, tell other people, you see what's going on? You see what that's what this is. Systemic accountability. That's exactly what that is. Because you're wrong, we have to turn this into some racial stuff. And then get other people involved. And then pretty soon somebody's going to call somebody a name. You wouldn't have called me that if I wasn't that. It is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I'm going to do the required policy reforms, public atonement and reparations, descents of slavery, where they already did that. They just gave $4 billion, probably a couple years ago, to the black farmers. $4 billion. So that was a couple years ago. It takes about 5 years of stuff, and they're going to have their farms and fresh fruit and things up and running and get that back circulating in the community so we can get some better food. They did that. You're talking about reparations, $4 billion to the black farmers. Also, if you go back and look into history, they have compensated mainly everybody so far. So when it comes to when everybody's talking about the reparations now, why isn't that not happening? Why did Jesse Jackson get on there and say, somebody got to give it to you? These people say that, somebody got to give it to you. It is 2026. Why am I still listening to you? Why isn't there a younger version of you? Why isn't there a younger version of any of this stuff? And then you will get your answer, okay, about black stuff, black fatigue, and all of that stuff. You'll get your answer. Because when he said that, and I'm thinking, well, aren't you the person that all these years you was there, Martin, all of this stuff? Wouldn't you be the person that would push for that the most and make sure that that happened if that was real and if that was a reality? I think so. I'm almost positive, because from my research, the compensation packages, especially those for reparations, people is getting their stuff. So who are these individuals constantly talking about this? Abolishing racist legislation and updating the use of force rules. Well, declaring racism a form of public health emergency. Well, they can't collect all the money. They can't collect the funds if they don't have that stuff going, man. They figured out how to make money. And they got the right people to keep carrying this weird stuff out. That's just my personal opinion. I lived through it. I know, and any chance, every moment chance they get, they try to use it in stuff with me. So I know it's nonsense. Right now, I can't go get me some food at a black-owned food bank up here, over there, anywhere. Get me a voucher. Hey, I got to pay a couple months. Get me that. Get me some food. Oh, if I need some clothes or something of that nature, I get that. I can't get that. So if this was a reality that this specific thing was going on and we had to do that, that's what would be happening, because every other race or other people have organizations like that where they do that. And nobody's talking and saying, hey, they ain't allowing us to do whatever. It's just these people got dollar signs in their eye and they just pocket the money. Then it gets so good, then they just start committing fraud. It ain't enough to just take the money out of the hands of the people that need it, but they also need to take more money. So the synthesis of the dual engine of progress. So I did a video on 100 year. I was joking about, is it race or is it progress? So look, here is the synthesis, the dual engine of progress. You got the synthesis, you got the reality paradox, you got the cellular imperative. So you cannot merely breathe on the ground your way to systemic racism, because the structural machine will keep you producing microaggressions. So what is that? Oh man, they ain't hired me because I'm black. Man, I filled out the application. They ain't gonna hire me because I'm this, and that. Man, they tell me, well, how many? There's only 5 of us that work there. So you're not gonna fill out the application and do anything because you say that there's only 5 of them working there, right? That's on your way to systemic racism, because you structurally have entered a machine that's been fed to you. This machine produces individuals that have bought into the narrative. And the reality of the paradox. You know how that goes. And I'm going to stop right there. So the path forward, we must robustly support community ownership and personal boundary setting. Now I have the boundary setting club, right? You gotta listen. You gotta listen. Oh, it's connected. I told you, energy over here. It is all the path forward. Is we must robustly support community ownership and personal boundary setting, while simultaneously forcing policy reforms. Says it right there. So You look at that. And I had the Boundary Setting Club, and I say that because you have to do that with yourself. You can't allow individuals, if your life is fine and your thing has nothing to do with you, but you guys are partners. That's your bruh. And you won't feel what he feels, whatever that is. But that's something he's experiencing based on his behavior. And now he wants me, I will use myself, as he's talking, he's saying, yeah, man, I know and he wants me to get on his side and agree with him, and now take up this cause with him in this situation that really, to me, has no racial undertone. It just seems like that you had a personal bias about this individual, and maybe because he was a different culture, and you did not like the language that was spoke back to you. And so now you feel that it's something racial. You have internalized that as it being something of your skin color. If you ever ran into somebody that really is about that, they're not going to tell you. I will repeat. If you ran into anybody that's about that, they are not going to tell you. And it's been that way since they buttoned it up. And so the people that you have running around, I call them crash dummies. They are paid entities. They are paid systems. They are paid programs to continuously keep and spin this narrative, this cycle of stuff. Excuse me, I'm excited. This cycle of stuff that doesn't pertain to the present day. Because now it's about technology. If you want to be a racist or something, or you want to be tripping on something, well, you better be doing that with that. Because the other stuff, they've been left that alone. And what is it, 1886? When did the state born? 1886, something like that? And that's a long time ago. And in between that, how did that get started up? Who started that back up? And then what was that? And then why aren't they talking about the groups of people they brought here that annihilated a lot of people here, which is why there are certain boundaries that need to be set with certain individuals with certain DNA and certain behaviors. Because like I said in that video, they don't change their spots. That's who they are. Is it universal balance? Who knows? But when you jump into the bed with them and then you pick up that cause, you're going to be the one sacrificed because you shouldn't be there. I know this personally. It never worked out for me when I was thinking of saying, it never panned out. No pom-poms, no awards, no plaques, no pats on the back, no money, no nothing. All it does is emotionally damage you. What I did get help for is my mental health. And certain things that I went to do and to help myself, so that way I could be as productive as I could be, and try to enjoy this life. So black fatigue for me is more about behavior, and it's always been like that. What did they tell them last time? It's a sideshow. Okay, when they hang out over here, it's this. Now it's takeover. And so they're hanging out because they're letting you know they have nothing to do. I'll repeat what I repeated in the beginning. They need a program. After school, YMCA stuff. You have to do this. People used to be out. When I was growing up, they hand us flyers, man. Come to this. We got this baseball, flag football thing happening on the weekend. Stuff. We had real people back then. They don't got none of that stuff. These kids running around. They put them in the house in 2019. I told you. Put them in there. They done lost their mind. Screws loose. Right, if you sat them down and you say, nope, that's not reality. Nope. Everything that they will tell you is non-reality. And they will argue you down. They say, oh, you're just an old hater. And no. Another thing is that there was no transition. The same people my age and probably a little younger are in the same jobs, in the same place, in the same thing, because they need to be. Which means it has left out and eliminated a whole workforce of young of Gen Z, and I don't know. I have to look up the age on Alpha, but Gen Z, of them not being able to have some of them jobs and things like that. So everybody has to bear responsibility and accountability. And the fact is, news people or people in their cities or things like that, where are the programs? I know it's a lot of fraud. A lot of money goes into this stuff, and it's not happening. I told you it's cause and effect. If you see them, then that means somebody has stolen some money. There's some fraud going on. There's something, because they specifically, the younger people, I had it was growing up. I don't know after that, my sons. But why is it today that there's absolutely nothing? They're going to continue to be out there, be on the street. This is Life Skills TTP. This is a case study about black fatigue. This is not my personal opinion. This is from Mary Winters. And enjoy your day. I was looking for it with you, though. Enjoy your day.